Good day, my womb sisters, and welcome back. So, you know that Power of Esteem, we like to focus here on feminine wellness. And today, I have a very trippy conversation to talk about. So let's get started. This article was pushed out by Vice.com. It was in the UK of Vice. So the title goes by Some People Think You Can Get High Off Your Own Period. So what is it? It's called Menstrual Tripping, FYI. And so I know the question is, how the heck do you get high off your own period? So what if we could tell you you could get a high from being on your period? What if someone told you that if you lean into your period by skipping the painkillers and channeling the pain, you could access an otherworldly, dreamlike state like tripping on LSD? Honestly, if somebody ever told me that, I'd be like, show me the way. So menstrual tripping is a nugget of wisdom shared in women's health expert Maisie Hill's new book, Period Power, an Amazon bestseller on how to harness your menstrual cycle for optimal benefit, motivation, and focus. Hill writes that during the first day or two of menstruation, when the production of oxytocin and endorphins are at high, you can naturally enter a dreamlike and hallucinatory high if you seclude yourself in a dark room. Place your hands over your abdominal and focus on meditative breathing. Interesting. It's something she claims to be able to do herself. If I was able to seclude myself in rest, Hills right, the gentle high would progress into a dreamlike state where I would experience visions. Period pain, she claims, actually help her to access this liminal state. Hill says that a number of women she has coached on menstrual tripping have reported having hallucinations and feeling a sense of euphoria. According to Hill, the phenomenon may not be common, but that could potentially be linked to the fact that most of us will immediately take painkillers that mask our ability to access this trippy experience. Kim Wong Shing, a 28-year-old from New Orleans, says she experienced an out-of-body feeling in a way that matches Hill's description of menstrual tripping. Every month for a day or so before her period starts, she'd enter this sort of elevated, dreamy state where she have a hard time grounding herself in reality. She would say, "My creative and spiritual energy feels super heightened." That's interesting. 29-year-old Lola Mendez says that the phrase menstrual tripping chimes with her experience of her own period. It seems as if it could explain some of the phenomena I've experienced during my flow, she's added, which have become such a normal occurrence I don't even question it anymore. Mendez say when she is on her period, she experiences a heightened sense of spirituality and that she finds great clarity in nature, far beyond what she normally experienced when not on her period. I've had moments of great understanding and healing, she says. I notice all of them are like in the millennial age. However, the medical literature is a little less forthcoming on menstrual tripping. I bet. I spoke to 3 OB/GYNs who said they were unable to comment because they were unfamiliar with the phrase. It is not accepted scientific terminology, and Hill's theory is not backed up by any medical literature. Johns Hopkins Medicine Associate Professor of Psychiatry and Behavior Science, Matthew Johnson. So they about to have a male tell us what we can and cannot do. I gotta continue to read. But PhD says that although he has no specific knowledge, of course you don't, of the phenomenon, naturally occurring states of altered consciousness are not uncommon. They can be associated with any number of psychological processes, so it wouldn't surprise me that some women experience altered state during menstruation, he told Vice. When we spoke to Hill, she told us that science simply hasn't connected the dots when it came to menstrual tripping. There are pieces of information out there that validate the theory, but they haven't been linked together, she says. And that's often the case with experiences exclusive to women. Hello? Like, the fact that they asked a male doctor about this experience is crazy. It is common, she points out, to come across experiences of hallucination and euphoria in the literature about giving birth. They produce really high amount of hormone oxytocin and endorphins, the body's natural painkiller, and the combination of those for women in labor can result in feeling otherworldly and having this liminal experience where your hormones are just working at such optimal levels and being secreted in such high amount that it can create this trippy experience. Why would periods be any different? That's a good question. There is a recognized medical condition known as the menstrual psychosis, a medical condition that debilitates the mental and emotional strength of the menstruating person and impacts, by some counts, up to 1 million women in the United Kingdom alone. Could this be the same thing as menstrual tripping? Hill says no. Psychosis is an altered mental state that is a negative experience, whereas what I'm describing is more gentle and positive. When we're talking about the negative impact on mood that can associate with the menstrual cycle, that is often something that happens in the second half of cycle between ovulation and the state of next period. Menstrual tripping, she says, tends to be something that happens during the period itself, and it's not something that precedes the onset of menstruation. For anyone looking to get high off their own period, Hill has some words of advice. She says that having a quiet space to focus is key to menstrual tripping. Pointing to the number of indigenous communities around the world which have menstrual huts that house menstruating people and new mothers, it is seen as a sacred and important time to connect with yourself and what we could loosely call spirits in vague term. Hill says in some communities, women can take the time out to bleed and connect with that part of themselves and receive insights, and sometimes have visions or get a sense of their calling or something that could do with their lives. After all, the concept that menstruating people have the ability to trip on their period doesn't come from nowhere. Indigenous communities throughout the history have formed social orders and customs around menstruation to encourage spiritual and otherworldly enlightenment and within more of the population than is commonly understood. Some women rights activists point out that menstrual huts can be dangerous, oppressive places. In Nepal, women and girls have died from the practice of, I'm so going to mess this one up, chowpudi. I think I made that one good. Chowpudi, which condemns them to unsafe and unsanitary huts for the duration of their periods. In other cultures, such as Indonesia, indigenous Halalu people, the menstrual hut is a sacred space where women are perceived as carrying a dangerous and powerful weapon when on their periods. The menstrual hut may have gotten a bad rep as a tool of oppression, says Janet Hoskin, an anthropology professor at the University of Southern California. But, I just said that's so funny, Southern California, but not necessarily the way that it is for Halalu people. Hoskin added that the Halalu women she spoke to emphasized the menstrual hut as having a creative and empowering aspect and constituted a time when women have a certain kind of power. For perceived as having mythical power to being shamed and ostracized for bleeding, the way in which period influence our social experience can say much about the culture in which women live. That community embraces, fear, ignore, or reject those natural functions is emblematic of how we are treated, with women often treated with conflicting combination of these responses. The tendency to pop some painkiller and carry on with our busy lives adds to the culture of mistrust of our body's natural tendencies and potentially stifles its natural abilities. What if all we needed was some peace and quiet to figure that out? As Hill put it, it's possible for all of us to enter that state. It's a great opportunity for us to connect with ourselves in the way that other people do. Let's see if there's any comments left on this. There's no comment left on this. But I find this article so powerful. I found this article to like another way for women to just take control, especially natural alternative, into taking our power back. From what it seems like, it's just a way of breathing that would take you into this natural state of high while on your cycle so that you can connect to yourself. And if you understand the breath of life and having that sense of relief and control, it is the most powerful thing ever. So, ladies, have you ever heard about this alternative medicine of tripping on your period? And how do you feel about that? And have you ever had the